Welcome to the TalentGrow Show, where you can get actionable, results-oriented insight and advice on how to take your leadership, communication, and people skills to the next level and become the kind of leader people want to follow. And now, your host and leadership development strategist, Halelly Azulay.
Hi there. Welcome back to the TalentGrow Show. I'm Halelly Azulay, your leadership development strategist, with what is the final episode of 2015. 2015 is the year I launched my podcast back in March, and now this is the last episode and the show's year is in the books. And I thought that a good topic for this last episode would be to do a year in review. Plus, I asked some of my friends on Facebook, and it seems like that's the most popular topic they were saying they would like to hear, some lessons learned from this year. So I'm going to share with you 3 different leadership lessons that I learned from starting a podcast. And before I get to those lessons, just want to give you a little bit of an overview of how it all started. Now, you might know that I have been a very voracious consumer of podcasts for a while now. I love listening to podcasts. I listen to a lot of different kinds of podcasts, and I'm constantly learning and just loving the experience. And at some point, the idea came into my head that, hey, maybe I could do a podcast. So it was a seed. It was in there, but it certainly at first it was like just some crazy kooky idea. And I didn't think that I could really do it, or I didn't know how I would do it, and I had no idea how I would start, and it seemed so daunting. So I just sort of pushed it to the side. But if you know anything about me, you probably know that once I get an idea like that, some kind of a, ambition in me, I get riled up. I start researching it with a fiery passion, and I start gobbling up everything that I can learn about how to do it. And I did. I just started reading and listening to podcasts about podcasting and reading blogs and just constantly trying to learn what does it entail and how do I do it. But if you also know me well, you might know that I do have a tendency to kind of stay in that research and input mode for too long. I get stuck in analysis paralysis mode for quite a while, and it's sometimes hard for me to move out of that mode and into implementation mode. So before I even get started, there are 2 people that I want to give a shout out to who helped me break out of that cycle and get moving in the direction of actually having a podcast. The first one is, he's a friend of mine. We're not close friends. His name is Marcus Sheridan, and he is the sales lion. He has his own podcast about content marketing, really smart guy. And so one time I was listening to an episode where he was riffing about the benefits of podcasting to him and to other entrepreneurs. And he was sort of naming all of these benefits, most of which I was really aware of, but something about the way he said it, or maybe it was how I was listening and where I was at the time, it really just clicked for me. It resonated so much that day. And I remember it just sort of clicked a switch, and it catalyzed for me this need to move into action. And in fact, podcasting was sort of this distant third on my goals list compared to writing my next book. And that day I decided to move it up on the list, and that it was more important than writing a book for me and my business at that time. And so thanks, Marcus. I really appreciate that you share those ideas because it helped me. And the second shout out that I'd like to give is to a woman named Esprit Devora. She is a member of a Facebook group that I also belong to, and we had never met before. I didn't really know very much about her, but she showed up as a very generous contributor to the group. And one day she posted in the group saying, hey, I've been podcasting for a while, and if anybody wants to hop on the phone with me for 15 minutes, I'm happy to mentor you and coach you and answer any questions that you have. And I was like, okay, well, it looks like the universe is saying to me that I should get some information from this woman. So I just jumped on it and I said, okay, I raised my hand, me. And I got on the phone with her, and let me tell you, it was not 15 minutes. Esprit gave me like an hour, I think, of her time. We're strangers. She doesn't even know me. And she was so helpful. And she pushed me. She pushed me into implementing before I was ready. It was really scary. I was really busy learning about equipment and production and recording and editing and publishing. And Esprit says to me, "Why haven't you launched your podcast yet?" And I started listing all my reasons, which were probably more like excuses. And she said, no. Here's what you need to do. You need to just schedule your first 3 interviews. You're going to figure out the rest of it once you have that done. And I swallowed, I gulped, and I felt just scared, a lot, really scared, and started telling her all my buts. But she was right. She pushed me, and I did it exactly a year ago. It was December of 2014. Based on this nudge from this kind, generous stranger, I reached out to several colleagues and booked their interviews and recorded 4 different episodes in the course of the last 2 weeks of December. Yes, the dead zone, the time when everybody says nothing happens and nobody does anything and everybody shuts down. I started my podcast. It wasn't publishing yet, but I was recording interviews and okay, I'm going to figure out what to do with it. And then I recorded a few more sessions in the first couple of months of 2015 while I was working on figuring out the behind the scenes and all of the things I needed to do to actually make the podcast a real thing that people could download and listen to. And I said that I would launch in the first half of 2015. And of course, I pushed myself and launched in the first quarter of 2015, specifically at the end of March, or in the middle of March. I launched, and I don't know if I would have just kept sitting on the sidelines if it wasn't for that coaching from Esprit, whom I only connected with on Facebook in the most indirect and impersonal way up to that point. So whoever says Facebook is a waste of time, let me tell you, it is not. Okay, so that's sort of how I got started. I just wanted to give a little bit of background before I start sharing the lessons learned. I've learned a lot of lessons. Oh my goodness, I learn daily along the way. But as I reflect on it, there are 3 top lessons that I learned that can actually be applied to any leader in any kind of situation that I thought I would share here with you as I bring 2015 to a close. So are you ready? Let's start. The first big lesson that I learned was from Esprit, and it was start before you're ready. You shouldn't start when you have no idea what to do. You shouldn't just jump blindly into the abyss. No, I'm not suggesting that. I do think you should do your research, and I do think you should talk to people, and I do think you should prepare. But at some point, and it's probably when you're about maybe 80% ready, maybe 85% ready, you need to move into execution mode. You need to move into implementation mode. You cannot keep researching and studying and learning and waiting to be 100% ready, because you'll never be 100% ready. And so what helps to get into that mode sometimes is to get a coach or a mentor or some kind of an external accountability partner who helps to push you, like Esprit did for me. And scheduling something important with some other people is also a really, really helpful trick to move you into action. So when I scheduled those interviews with those first few people for my podcast, I didn't say to them, "Hey, I have an almost baked podcast. Would you like to be on it?" No. I said, "I'm starting a podcast. Would you like to be one of my first guests? I'm recording. What day works for you?" And that's it. I just sort of fake it till you make it. I told them that I was ready. I told myself that I was ready. And I knew that once that was on the books and scheduled, oh my goodness, I needed to be ready, and I would be ready, and it worked. So it really helped. And don't get me wrong, I didn't have it all figured out, even when I recorded those sessions, and even when I first launched the podcast, and even now, I don't have it all figured out. There are still things that I am learning on the fly. But you have to move it forward when it's good enough, and then keep iterating. It's always going to be a work in progress. Nothing is ever really at 100%. We're always in beta mode. But a person who is a truly growth-oriented person understands that and comes to terms with that and feels okay with it. So that's my first big lesson. Start before you're ready. The second big lesson that I learned that can be applied to leaders everywhere is you shouldn't go it alone. You need to get help and delegate when you're approaching a big project, a big goal. Don't try to do it all yourself. At first, I intended to do this all myself. Now, you may or may not realize this, but podcasting is not a money maker for my business. And I only make money from my business when a client pays me. So for me to do things that actually require me to spend time and to spend money, but that don't return any money right away, I have to really think about that, because that's time that I'm taking away from time that I could be making billable and earning money from clients. But a lot about being an entrepreneur is thinking long term and investing in something that will return and yield benefits in the future. So I was fully prepared to do podcasting from that perspective, but I really had kind of a frugal mindset about it, thinking that I don't want to sink too much money into this because I have no idea. Will it work? Will I get clients this way, or will it help me get more exposure, or will it help me grow my business? I don't know. So I was really trying to just do the do-it-yourself method. And by nature, I'm also very ambitious, and I am very frugal, and I'm very independent. So that's a deadly cocktail for burnout, let me tell you, because I do have this tendency to try to figure it all out and do it all myself. But I'm really glad that very early on in that process of trying to figure things out, and truthfully, probably because I already had those interviews recorded and felt a huge pressure to not just let those things sit and not see the light of day, I knew that there was just no way I was going to be able to really learn how to be excellent at editing and producing a podcast. And there are people out there who do this for a living. This is all they do. And of course, they're pros at it. They're excellent at it. Now, did I really want to learn all the ins and outs and all these processes so that I could become a pro at editing podcasts and at producing podcasts? No, I don't really need to be an expert in that. That's not the area that I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to figure out how to create content that's helpful and to share it with people. So I decided to get a pro to help me. And I hired a guy who does nothing but edit and produce podcasts for a living. Now, first of all, like I said, I was kind of concerned about the cost. It surprised me that it was not that expensive. And if you think about the cost, you need to also think about the cost, the opportunity cost of not doing this, of not delegating. So think about the hours and hours and hours that I already sunk into trying to figure this out, trying to study this, trying to understand it. And I'm not a techie. And all the hours that I would have inevitably spent to go make this work and to learn even more. And probably it would have not been at a very high quality either, because I'm a novice at it. Think about all those hours and what I also could be doing during those hours that actually could help my business and at which I actually am good. So it's really a no-brainer. There's a huge return on investment for outsourcing things to someone who does it much more quickly, much more efficiently, at a much higher quality, and focuses just on doing that, and allows me to use my time to focus on what I do well and what only I can do. This was one of the lessons I've actually been trying to implement in my business in general, especially this year. And I'm still learning to do it. There are a lot of things that I still do on my own that I probably have no business doing and that I should delegate. And this is something that I know most managers and leaders that I meet struggle with, but I've also made great strides, and it's been really beneficial for my business and my sanity. So big old shout out to Tom Hansen of KNVP Studios, who takes care of all of the technical back-end production stuff to make this podcast a reality. Thank you, Tom. And I hope that you also apply this lesson, which is don't go it alone. Delegate so that you can focus on what you do best and let others focus on what they do best. And that will make everybody's time a lot more maximized. So I've shared 2 lessons, and I have one last big lesson that I learned that can apply to any leader. And that is that by podcasting this year, I've really learned to listen more deeply to my passion and to leverage my strengths even more at work. And it's really rekindled for me something and reminded me something that I've known and I've been doing in my work for sure. When I do workshops and when I speak to audiences, I am definitely doing things that leverage my strengths. But something about podcasting really allowed me to relish how much I enjoy this process of following my curiosity, learning and chasing down interesting ideas, connecting with fascinating people, and sharing my learnings with others to help them grow. These are things that are my strengths. It is what I do in my business, and podcasting allowed me to do it in a really unique new way to really capitalize on my top strengths and to bring my best self to work. And I have found so much joy in podcasting that I often say that I wish I could just do podcasting full time. And I can't right now, but then again, there are people who do that. So it's really inspired me to revisit some old dreams that I've had about some other related kinds of projects that I could be doing, but that I've constantly been pushing back as I've thought about them and not bringing them to fruition. There are a lot more ways that I can leverage my strengths more fully, more frequently in my work. And so for 2016, I actually hired a coach to help me figure this out. And I'm working on fleshing these ideas out as I plan my goals for 2016 and beyond. I can't quite share with you more about that because they're still kind of nascent and the plans are definitely not ready for prime time. But I am acutely aware that there is a lot more to this podcasting thing for me. And there's a lot of things that it's bringing up for me about what I love doing and how can I do more of that in my work. And I'm pushing myself past a lot of doubts and a lot of fears to explore what else, what more can become of this passion of mine, to be curious, to learn, to curate, to be open-minded and use my critical judgment to select and connect the best ideas and people, and to formulate them into interesting and digestible content that can bring insights and value to others. So that's a big lesson I'm learning, which is listen to your passions and follow your strengths in your work so that you can really be your best self. So in summary, the 3 big leadership lessons that I learned from my first foray into podcasting were: when you're working on a big, scary goal, start before you're ready. Get help and don't go it alone. And listen to your passion and leverage your strengths because that's what will give you joy, but also allow you to add the most value to others. I wish you a very healthy and happy and fulfilling 2016. Thank you for listening to the TalentGrow Show and for sharing this journey with me. I would love to hear more from you about what you would like me to cover in future episodes. What are some ideas you want to hear about or topics or people that you want to hear from? Write that in the comments below this episode on talentgrow.com/podcast. And I take your ideas very seriously. I really, really encourage you to share those with me. If you want to email me, you can email me to my direct inbox, which is Halelly@talentgrow.com, HALELLY@talentgrow.com. And if you want to help me reach more people and make an even greater impact, would you do me 2 small, quick favors that maybe will take 4 or 5 minutes of your time? It would be such a nice way for us to close the year and for you to let me know that you've enjoyed this show. First, hop on over to iTunes, onto my podcast page, and give me a rating, give the show a rating, and just a quick 1, 2, or 3 sentence review about what you've enjoyed the most about this podcast in general. This doesn't only assure that other people know that it's a worthwhile podcast to listen to when they're checking it out and they're not sure if it's worth their time, but it actually also helps it be more likely to be discovered by people who are searching for shows and that have never heard about this show. So it's something that helps me reach more people and make a greater impact, which is what my goal is. I'm not trying to make money. I'm not making any money out of it. I just really want to reach people and help them. I want to help them grow. And you would be doing something really beneficial by putting in that rating and review. And the other quick favor that you can do to also help me reach more people is to share this show or to share any other episode that you've liked or just to share the page for the podcast in general with other people. You can do that in Facebook. You can do that on Twitter. You can do that on LinkedIn. You can send an email. You can pick up the phone and call your BFF and say, hey, have you listened to this show? I've really liked it. It's been making my commutes more doable, as someone just wrote me that that's what he's doing. And I think that you might benefit from it too. If you could do those quick favors for me, I would love it. It would help me so much, and it would really mean the world to me. But regardless, I really appreciate you. I really am glad that you're on this journey with me, and I hope that you make it a great winter holiday season and a happy new year. And I look forward to seeing you with more Talent Grow Show episodes in 2016. Until then, make today great. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Talent Grow Show, where we help you develop your talent to become the kind of leader that people want to follow. For more information, visit talentgrow.com.